Welcome, everyone. I'm Dr. Louise Walter, and I want to welcome you to the Brain Soul Success Show, where we learn, explore, and create your powerful, positive healing for life. And I am here with my amazing guests. We call this our Roundtable Talks. So I'm here with Miss Beautiful Trina Rice, Yolanda Haywood, and Sinclair Canale, and we've just been getting together, I think, for about 5 months now. Just discussing and learning and growing and also educating all of you on hopefully some tips that'll help you in your world and in your business. I know that I learned through conversation, and I'm so grateful to have you all with me today. There's a lot of stuff going on the planet right now, right? Just a lot, there's just too much. I don't even know where to start, but I do know that there was just these horrific acts of violence recently. And it's brought up the whole issue of racism, and when I look at it, I look at it as it's murder. It's just point blank murder. And we've got to look at this, and we got to pay attention to it. And we've got to pay attention to the hurts, the deep hurts and the wounds that have been created, over the centuries here in our world. And maybe, this is, the positive of this is it's open now and it's time to address it. It's really time to address it. So what a better platform to do that and to learn and grow together here, and maybe learn some tools that we can all use, or have your insights into what you're doing in your community. So some of the questions I know I've been asking myself is, wow, this has brought up so much. I was in tears and in shock when I saw what just happened here, and also all the riots that occurred afterwards, and and in a sense, almost needed protests. I bet everyone has an opinion on that, but needed protests. So, how can we do this? How can we heal those wounds? So before we dive in, again, I just would love for you to introduce yourself to our audience here. And then we're going to dive into this topic and find out if we can have some healing here happen today, and some wisdom we can impart for our audience. So Trina, would you like to start? Tell us a little bit about yourself and your business.
Hey guys, thanks for being here. My name is Trina Rice, and I am the co-creator of the Energetic Signature Formula and the Misfit Squad. And, we give lots of tools, and it's about embracing your differences and discovering a whole spectrum of possibilities and changing what you may think is wrong about you into what is actually strong about you. Because some of our greatest wrongnesses, what we think are our wrongnesses, are actually our greatest strongnesses. So.
Oh, I like that. Wrongnesses and strongnesses. I had a hard time saying that. Thank you, Trina, for being here, and for all the work that you're doing in the world, and how many people you're touching. Thank you. And Yolanda Haywood, thank you so much for being with us today. And I know that you are going to be, in a sense, sort of our, I'm just going to say our main person. You're Black, you've been affected by this in a big way. And I love when you speak. I love your wisdom. So share with us a little bit about yourself today, so our audience knows you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Louise. It's always great to come together with all of you. My name is Yolanda Haywood, and I am a business and life coach, and I really work with others to help them break down the invisible walls that are holding them back so that they can live the life they want to live. And so I work with individuals, companies. I'm a speaker, anyone who's really on that journey to find that inner power so that they can stand in a new place of truth. That is my ideal audience. And I'm looking forward to the candid and open conversation today.
Wow. I love what you do. And, when I think about really this topic, even today, that's what you do. You help people speak their truth and be out there in such a beautiful way. Thank you for the work you're doing. Wow. So thank you, Yolanda. And Sinclair, tell us a little bit about yourself and your work in the world.
Hey everybody, I'm Sinclair Canale. I'm a health pioneer, coach, and activist, and CEO of Vision Nation. I specialize in helping people detox to thrive, specifically to clear out those toxins that are lowering your IQ, slowing you down, making you sick, so you can get back to your best work.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Wow. And I love what you do in the world too. I mean, you're helping so many people. And even just before the call, you were like, wait a minute, I'm helping a client. I'm going to be late. so, so thank you, Sinclair, for being with us today. Yeah. So again, I'm really, this whole issue certainly just brought me to tears and sadness about what's been happening, in our country. And as Sinclair pointed out earlier when we were talking, it's not just George Floyd and everything that happened with that, although that was sort of a pivotal moment that brought this to the forefront for all of us to look at. And I'm just wondering, what, what, how has this impacted each of you? And what were the thoughts that came up for you, and what is your process of working through it for yourself? I mean, it was a shock to all of us, but I don't know. So how has it impacted each of you? What happened for you when you learned about that, and what was your process of what were you thinking, and what's been happening for you since then? Sinclair, do you want to talk to that first?
I can, yeah. So Breonna Taylor was very triggering for me. That she was shot while sleeping in her own home, and that there was no formal response. No response would be adequate, let's be clear. But by the police who went to the address, so there was no cause. And you can intellectualize it and think about all the societal components that led that to happen. And I think that's an important layer of the conversation. But when something this devastating happens to the whole, and make no mistake, we are all connected. We are all one. We all come from one source, right? I think we're all united in that concept, even though we approach it different ways, the four of us. I think we deeply hold that to be true, that we understand the energetics of this time-space paradigm. I think it's really important to be honest with yourself when you become aware of a trauma like that, because it's going to activate your own trauma in yourself from your past and even your ancestral trauma. And so in order for you to be present to the moment for the collective, excuse me, you got to take care of yourself first, so that you're not asking anybody else to do that for you, especially as a white person, right? Not to center your own feelings in the community. That doesn't mean you don't take care of yourself first, but that's what you got to do, so that you can show up and be present and contribute to a healing outcome. Which, so for me, I've been thinking a lot about, or I've been doing that work of taking care of myself and being honest where I still have those triggered moments from my own trauma, and making sure that when I do show up, I am present and able to witness and contribute. If that makes sense.
Yeah, so it's taking care of.
And so George Floyd was just like the last straw. The guy's hand in his pocket was like, I don't think I'll ever unsee that, while he, had his knee over George Floyd's neck.
Okay. Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you. And I can see that I know that you're very introspective and you do your own work, and you're working on healing those hurts and those wounds. Yeah, that brought up for you individually. Let's go on and ask others, and then we've got some other questions here that I know I want to follow up with that. So Yolanda, tell us, this is a huge impact in your life and in your family's life. And you're representing in a sense. So I appreciate you being here representing, yourself, but the Black community too. And so, how has this impacted you? And I know you're such a great speaker. So what are you sharing, or what was your process here in helping you get through this? And where are you on that path? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think, the process is still in process.
Okay.
Because this is still very raw. And when you think about the time commitment that it may take to really see meaningful change, I'm bracing myself.
Mhm.
You know, I was having that conversation with my husband, and I said it took 381 days of a bus boycott before something really changed. It will take 18 months before we have a vaccine for the coronavirus. I don't think healing racism and systemic injustice and oppression and 400 years of wrong will go away in a week or 2 weeks or overnight.
Mhm.
I think we have just started to scratch the surface.
Mhm.
And I hear often people say, you know, we were finally able to see it because of the camera. So I'll say the impact for me was, why finally? It has been here. Why did it take a man dying on air without being able to breathe for 8 minutes and 46 seconds with someone's knee in his neck before the world was able to say, yes, this is a problem? Why wasn't it a problem when it was Eric Garner or Michael Brown or Sandra Bland or Breonna Taylor or Ahmaud Arbery? Why was it George Floyd before it was a problem? So it stirred up a lot of emotions. You know, I learned of Mr. Floyd's passing from my son. He sent me a text and I glanced down at it and it was, Mommy, I'm sorry, it has profanity in it, but you have to watch this because we have a no profanity zone in my household. And he knew that the urgency of the video was something I needed to see and was worth breaking the rule. And the next day felt like grief. It was just grief. It was not wanting to get out of the bed. It was the weight. It was the tears falling. And I remember saying that I don't remember being that sad since my grandmother passed, where I would wake up and I would feel the tears rolling from my cheek before I can even get out of bed. So it has been very difficult. And there was a period of silence. And then there was a determination for me to not be silent. You know, that has been the platform that I'm building upon. I will not be silent. And it's interesting because the work that I do teaches people how to stand in their authentic truth. And I had to ask myself, how much have you pretended? How much have you just shown up? How much of doing what you may term playing the game so that you can be successful has now come tumbling down under the weight and the sorrow of what you just saw across the airways? So I am definitely on a journey. I am willing to take others with me that want to walk with me. I made a determination. I'm not willing to push, nor will I pull. I've received all types of inbox messages and all types of feedback. Some people really, really love me and some don't love me so much right now. But that's okay because the Black community is hurting. And if we don't pause and share the stories in order to open up the eyes and the ears and the hearts of America, then we put ourselves in a position where there will be a continual cycle of devaluing human life simply based on the color of your skin. And so my stance is to tell the stories, to share the experiences, to expose the hurt, and to approach tomorrow differently than I approached yesterday.
Wow, I'm glad I have that on recording. That was, I mean, I love your words. I love your heart. You know, thank you for for sharing that with us and for being present to yourself, present to your own emotions, you know, and present for your community and present for your personal community, but also the Black community. Because I really feel like you are eloquently speaking, you know, some real truths that need to be heard, you know, by others. And I hope that you listening to this audience, you know, that you're getting something from this, you know, and that you stick with us here because, you know, usually what happens is it gets deeper as we kind of move through. And if you, you know, and so I appreciate your stance on that. And, you know, I just have to say to you, I know I was completely shocked and hurt too. And I just was like, I was like almost appalled. It's like, it just was like, what is going on? I mean,
It was like a modern day public lynching caught on video. You
yes.
know, I've heard many terms. It's been murder and it's been injustice, but it felt like a lynching.
Yes.
It felt like a noose around a neck.
Mm-hmm.
And the pleas and the I can't breathe, numerous times over and over. And your hands never leave your pocket.
Yeah,
Your
the response was
sunglasses
so
never
impressive.
move from
Yeah.
the top of your head. And those that are standing around wearing the same color that you're wearing, they don't even say enough. No one spoke up. The person holding his legs didn't flinch. We talk about the officer that was on his neck, but there was another officer on his legs, and there was another officer behind his back, and there was another one holding the crowd back, and there was somebody giving wisdom saying, check his pulse. I am an emergency response person. You need to check his pulse. And when he stopped moving and you still don't move, it showed a blatant disregard for human life and for Black life. And it infuriated me. It really did. It infuriated me. And it was a public display of your deepest and your worst fear. Because there was nothing in that moment that separated him from my husband, from my brother, from my sons. Because it was no longer about the $20 bill. It was no longer about the injustice that he may have done in the store. At that moment, it was simply about he was a Black man on the ground whose life wasn't valued. And it made me realize how real the fears that I often think about are. That when my husband says I'm going fishing, I call him 5 times. Where are you? Where are you? That I put the tracker on his phone because we live in an area that a Black man in by the lake by himself in the area that we live in, may not always be the wisest thing to do. So I'm constantly checking. If you change locations, let me know where you are. It brought up the fears of my son sent me a message at 8:26 saying, I'm going to ride my bike, and my heart saying, you can't ride your bike at 8:26. We live in a very nice neighborhood. We live in a upper middle class neighborhood. But at 8:26, an African-American boy getting on his bike, wearing his sweatshirt, thinking he's just gonna go around what he feels is home. I know differently than he knows that's not allowed. You can't do it because you can leave and not come back. And that moment for me just made me really feel all the things I think but are generally not politically correct to say.
Okay.
And that's where the words started coming. That's where the decree of I'm not going to be silent about it anymore comes. That's where the position of I don't care if this is going to make you uncomfortable because I've lived my life being uncomfortable and accommodating. And it just was a shift. It was a shift.
You brought up a lot of fear for you, that in generational fear, I'm sure too, and real life feelings. This is how you felt. This is what you go through. And we wouldn't know that. In other words, whatever we go through, we don't know what that other person is going through until we ask or until you share.
Yeah.
So I know that I wouldn't have known that about your son leaving on the bike, and I wouldn't have known about those fears. As a parent, I've had those fears, but in a different way, probably because of the oppression for centuries. So I know that when I'm working with someone who is Black, I am clearing slavery issues when I do ancestral clearings. I know that I'm working with somebody who's Jewish, I'm doing Holocaust clearings. We all have a past, and this is brought up so much for healing, for you, for the Black community, for us in knowing, for white people, for yellow, green, purple, I don't, how to be present, how to listen. So I know that I was asking those questions. I was like, I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
How do I say it? How do I be present for you? How do I listen, in a deeper way? What is my responsibility here? That's what it brought up for me. And I guess I'm still asking those questions, and I hope to get some answers from all of you today, on that too, because, it's a huge, it's just huge. It's huge. And when you asked Yolanda, why now? Why did this happen now? We just went through the whole COVID thing. I don't know if this is the answer, but I really feel like we are healing a lot of the wounds of the past. All of the COVID thing brought up a lot of fear for people, isolation for people, grief for people. This is another big, huge hurt, wound, grief, sadness, pain. Maybe other words I don't even have there. And it just feels like it's just it's like, I don't like the timing of it. No one loves the timing of anything like this, but it needed to come to a head somewhere, somehow. And you're right. We have to look at it now and keep the conversation going. It isn't going to go away in a week,
No.
2 weeks. This is, like you said, it's going to take 18 months to make some kind, the vaccine. Well, this is generations of healing that have to take place. And if the conversation needs to continue, it takes a year, it takes 2 years, whatever it takes, it's time. It's time.
Yeah.
I
agree.
So I just appreciate your heart and your sharing. And it just makes me want to cry and pray for you, for your family, for your safety, and for the healing of all of us through this conversation, through, this time, for us to become one. We all have to sleep, eat, breathe, poop, be. We're all people.
Yeah, we're all people. And I heard someone say so eloquently last night. Her name was Kimberly, and I can't recall her last name. She was speaking about inequality, and although we're all people, how we are still not equal. And we all start from such different places. And you're so right. We do all have to breathe and eat and love and laugh and, all of those things. And so often there, from Trina, I always gauge that there's much more about us that's the same than different. But sometimes the differences are so significant that it's hard to see the things that are the same.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. 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 Absolutely. Well, it's again, it's being present to the pain and the hurt and the wounds that need healing.
Mm-hmm.
It's listening.
And accepting them, accepting that it's okay to be different and to have a different experience. And it doesn't mean I don't love you any less. I was talking to a friend of mine, and she's white, and we were talking about how different simple tasks are. So one of the things I shared on social media was my journey to find pantyhose one day, simply because I needed to go into a meeting and I had to wear them, even though I don't like wearing them, but I needed to be, etiquette on that day, and how I had to run all over town and drive to a whole different part of town because the area that I was in did not consider the Black race. And after 6 stores, I couldn't find anything in any shade of brown. I would have taken something on an off shade, but I couldn't. I found suntan and beige and nude, and there's nothing about my melanin that's suntan, beige, or nude. And so I had to drive to what we would consider the Black part of town in order to get something that's simple. And it was just another reminder that simple things aren't always simple when you're standing in my shoes. And we were talking about teaching our children to drive. Both of our children will receive their licenses around the same time. And I said, you get to teach your son how to crank up the car, how to back out, do the 3-point turn, and all the things that we're teaching. Don't turn that curve so fast. And then we pull in the driveway and we say, now let's go over what happens if you get pulled over. That's a part of the lesson. We have to say, if you get pulled over, where do your hands go? They go on the wheel, mommy. Absolutely. If the officer says to you, I need your license and registration, what do? I ask for permission to move my hands. Do you move fast or do you move slow? What if you're challenged? What if they say this? What if they say that? Are all police officers bad? No. Absolutely not. My father is a serviceman, has been his entire life, and I honor them. But the reality is African American men and women are killed at an alarming rate compared to the population and the percentage of where we are in America. And you have to prepare your children for it differently when you are Black. You don't just get to teach them to drive. You get to teach them how to drive and how to come home alive. And that for me is what George Floyd's life, the message that's hitting the airway right now is, I am tired. We want to breathe. We want to show up as people, not people that you see with color that do not have the right to have a good life experience. It is a loud cry in the earth of something must change. And I think everyone has the responsibility that when your default thought is, well, it's like, if it's like this for me, it's like this for everyone else, to challenge yourself. Because if you don't challenge yourself, you don't see the blind spots. And when you don't see the blind spots, you can't become a part of the solution.
Mm. Yes. Yes. Again, your eloquency and how you put things across is unbelievably remarkable. I mean, I would like to get this out there bigger in a way where people really can hear you, Yolanda. So I thank you for your voice here and for helping us understand, for helping us understand how it feels and what you have to do for your family. Because we wouldn't know that. We're not standing in your shoes. So I always look at things as also an education issue. It's education.
Definitely.
It's definitely education. So, so I appreciate you being here. I want to give Trina a chance to, an opportunity here to share, so, how did this sort of land on you, and what kind of introspective path have you taken, since all this has occurred?
Yolanda, you're amazing in the way you speak and like what you say. And one of the things that you were talking about was you're showing up and you're speaking out, but you're not doing it from a push or a pull. And I think that's huge, because you right there are showing how to stand in your innate power and your innate of who you are, the presence of who you are as a Black woman, and allowing, it's the true essence of you coming forth. And that is what I see as being so asked right now of our world. Of like, to me, it seems like a whole human collective is being asked to like shift. We had COVID, and it's bringing up all this stuff we've talked about before. There's fear. And now we have this. It's like, how much is our earth asking for us to look at those things and look at all the patterning and all the ancestral stuff that we've held so silent that has created the separation? Because if we can, a lot of it is really going beyond what's right and going beyond what's wrong. It is about the separation, and there really should not be a separation based on race, culture, ethnic backgrounds, religion. And I get that there is, and I do get that this is something that needs to be brought to the surface. I have a Black boyfriend. We've been together for like close to 15 years, and his children are teenagers now, and and they're three beautiful, amazing women, and they're powerhouses in themselves. And it's been a challenge, it's like his oldest daughter was over here when that went down, and she was asking me all these questions, and his youngest daughter went down to one of the protests, and she was on the front line, and she took a video of also another young Black man that got manipulated by the police, and it went viral. And it just broke my heart. It broke my heart to see it. And we talked, and, kind of through it, I've been in both positions, because I've been also ridiculed because I've been with a Black man. I've had Black women yell and scream at me for taking someone of their race and vice versa. And, you know, through all of that, my biggest thing is I love people regardless of, and I know that's something that is said a lot, and I get that, and it doesn't solve the problem, but I have truly never seen people for the skin that they have on. I have seen them for what is inside them and is their true being and their soul and their spirit. And I know one of the things I always talk about, and we talk a lot about on the show too, is like energy. And really, truly, energy is contagious. It's like when you walk into a crowd, you can either affect people by your energy and raise the vibe up, raise that vibration up, or you can infect people. And that's what I've seen is happening. There is like the infection going on of where all of those things of separation is coming up, but also through that, it's affecting us as a human collective of what needs to be looked at so we can change. And everybody does have that equality, and we can all be in synchronicity. So that's I guess there's a whole lot there.
Yeah.
But I really actually honor that this is showing up, and I am devastated by the deaths and all the things that have had to occur for people to open their eyes.
Yes.
And I also honor those people who chose to leave in that way, because maybe that was part of one of their choices in creating something even greater. And I don't say that lightly to disregard them by any means. But sometimes our spirit does amazing things. So, and I just thank you, Yolanda, for, I mean, I think you're amazing in general. Like the stuff that you always say and what you bring to the table and the work that you do is beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, I think Trina, you said something, Louise, and we can go there. I wanna open this up a little. You said, I love people regardless of their color. And that's been a big topic lately of, it's taken different ways when people say, I don't see color. And it can be accepted and be very warm, or it can provoke a really negative reaction really, really quick. And I found myself on both sides of the coin. I really have. I've found myself on the side of, I know what you mean. And I found myself on the side of, I want you to see color. I want you to see the richness. I want you to see the depth. I want you to see the tears behind the melanin. I want you to see the journey that the color represents. So don't tell me you don't see color, because when you do, it felt for a moment like you're saying you don't see me, or you don't acknowledge. You don't acknowledge the pain in the past. So I guess my question would be, for those that may use that statement, give your heart even the more when you say, because I really believe when you say, I love people of all color. And if you said to me, I don't see color, I would accept it in the purity of the statement. So when others are saying it, what are the things that they really should be connecting to in that statement? I hope that's a clear question. What's the heart behind it?
So what are we connecting? I want to get clear on that question. So what are we connecting to when we say that statement?
Yeah, like I want you to complete the sentence. If you're gonna say you don't see color, then you need to really mean, this is a test, fill in the blank. What comes behind that? Because we need to get rid of the cliche of saying it and really step into the power of what that really means.
I see that.
I can't say that statement truthfully.
Okay.
It feels like spiritual bypassing. I don't like it. And maybe it's as a gay woman, I really have a strong visceral reaction when people try to gloss over something that is there and real for me. And because they don't know how to be present for it, they want to pretend that it's not there. And so I actually feel very uncomfortable with that statement, because it feels like a dishonoring of not just aspects of identity, but layers and layers and layers of experience, generationally and at every developmental stage of the human being in front of you. It feels like you're saying, can we just play nice? Because I don't want to see the parts that make me uncomfortable.
That's good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's good. Very well said.
Mm-hmm. We can also see from what we're just this conversation happening right now in the moment that people interpret things differently. You know, it's really about perception. I know that's actually what's been hard for me is I'm just supporting, listening, you know, asking myself, how can I show up responsibly, you know, compassionately, lovingly. But I honestly have to say that I was afraid to say certain things because I didn't want to hurt anyone. And I wasn't silent. I just was like, hey, is this the right way to say this? Is this going to come across right? And how are people going to perceive this? You know what I mean? And that's for anything. But this issue really brought that more to the surface. I found myself starting some post on Facebook and then deleting it. And I can't even remember what it was. I just know that it's brought up more of a like questioning. It's a questioning. It's an inner questioning for that very conversation around that statement that we just, you know, that you brought up, Yolanda, is how can I be more compassionately present? What is the right thing to do? You know, I don't have complete answers, although that is a question. So, you know, how can we act more compassionately and responsibly and lovingly? I feel like there's two issues here. I feel like one is the issue of definitely looking at, you know, racism and this, you know, this oppression. This is what happened. This is the truth. We need to address it and heal those wounds. So it's the collective healing of the whole. But that's the healer in me because I do a lot of generational clearings for people. And then also it's also about us. It's about how do we heal our own wounds around this? And what is it that needs to happen for each individual person here? And one of my teachers said, you know, to work with others and to really have a deeper healing, it starts with you. And Oprah Winfrey said the same thing. It starts with us. You know, it's like what hurts within me, and you know, because we're responsible for this. I mean, and the white man is responsible for slavery. It was truth. It's truth. It's wrong. It's not right. And I think we're all seeing that now. And there is hurt on that, you know. And so I hurt for that. I hurt for the fact that I was, you know, somewhere back there, maybe responsible for that in some way. I don't know, you know, and it's not right. So. I don't know. There's two bigger questions, isn't there, about how can we help others and how can we help ourselves?
You know, and part of that, when I say that I love people, I honestly mean it. I love people. It's regardless, I love people, and it's not dismissing anybody. That's who I am as a person. I'm not saying that works for everybody. That is how I function. And one of the things that I think has gotten me there is like, it's really looking at judgment, because judgment is a huge component to all of this. And I'm not perfect. I still have judgment. I still judge myself. I've caught myself judging other people. But like when I do that, I stop and pay attention. And that's one of the biggest things that I have worked on for so long is being a place of no judgment. And, you know, and I've worked whatever you may want to say, like in the inner cities, in the schools, and I've worked with all races, all colors, and you know, there's some vulgar stuff that's gone down in those school systems. I've seen some pretty horrific stuff in my day. I've seen kids die and pass away because of not having the needs met that they need. And even when I have worked with all different races, it's really quite funny in a way. I've always gotten along with them. Like always, we've gotten along. I'll walk into the room and the room lights up and they're like, "Hey, Trina." And I've had people who would never reach out. They're like, "Hey, can I get your number? Because I just want to talk to you." And I'm not saying that coming from an ego standpoint. It's just like, I had to really look at that. I'm like, what is that? What's different about that? And I'm like, oh. And I've actually taken people that kind of were really hurt and, give them volunteer, done things with them to help build them up. And I've had people like really reach out. And I guess a big place of that to me is that I have always been, to the best of my ability, to be a place of no judgment with anybody. And like I said, I'm not perfect with it, but I've had some really good times, regardless of people's backgrounds and where they come from. And it, like I said, once again, it's not degrading anybody, because we all have hardships and along the way. And there's so much ingrained and implanted regarding race in our culture today.
That's what it looks like to be a bridge. That's not arrogance to say that someone will say, "I just want to get to know you." And it's not degrading. It's degrading when you see the other part of community and you go, "I'm not going there. I don't want to be with those people."
Mm-hmm.
Or, "I don't think so. I think I can just write a check." That's when it becomes degrading. But when you become the bridge, that's not degrading. That's healing. That's saying that we can all learn from each other, and we can all offer love to one another.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's a good thing, Trina.
Mm-hmm.
Really good.
Mm-hmm.
I like that bridge.
Yeah.
I like the word
Many bridges.
It's a really beautiful word. It's a beautiful segue into maybe how can we then create that bridge? What can you do in your own communities, and your own client base, or you're all coaches, to help create that bridge.
Well, let's talk about the ways that we are doing it ourselves. Let's get specific for folks that are listening in and wondering how to make this an ongoing part of their lives, right? Because that's the recurring message right now is this is going to take a lot of work. This is going to take time. And like Michael and I cleared days after George Floyd's death, just because it was so grief inducing. You gotta make space to really show up and be present in the moment. So like one thing people can do that are listening in is check your feeds. What voices are you listening to? Right? And make sure that they're coming from a variety of different backgrounds and experiences. So you're getting a dose of humanity every day and a viewpoint that is not yours. And that you are seeing people, examples of excellence from every community, so that you see, you really see humanity and not just your own echo chamber. And for some of us, it's embarrassing to realize it, but that is a step you have to take. So let's start today. Change your feeds. Go find examples of excellence. If you love interior design, go follow 20 Black interior designers. If you love fashion, go follow 20 up and coming Black fashion designers. And, every other community that needs more representation. It doesn't have to be like all heavy and hard, but you've got to make room.
I love that. Make room.
Make room. Yeah. Make room.
So that's one thing, right? And do your own trauma work, because if you get triggered by somebody else saying something, you can't be present for them. And that's what the healing takes. Like, it's not lost on me that 15 years ago, I had to navigate the world in a very different way as a gay woman for my own physical safety every day. than I do now. And why is it different? Because a lot of people who are not like me stood up and said, we're not okay with this anymore. And it's also not lost on me that it was an easier fight to tackle, even though you're talking about centuries of religious oppression and family trauma about this not being okay and you're going to hell. But because a lot of us are white, it was an easier thing to tackle. You had a lot of white men that were not willing to accept this anymore, the status quo, because they were gay, and you had a lot of people that loved them and loved white women. This is a really stacked issue, right? So, I'm watching the gay issue and our safety accelerate past Black safety. That's not lost on me. And so how can we be there for the Black community? So, because obviously advocacy makes a difference. Showing up makes a difference.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Sinclair, that's powerful.
Mm-hmm.
It's because really, in order for that to happen, there has to be an admission that something is broken or that the race was not okay. And see, it's one thing when you say, okay, I need to make this okay in my culture, in my community, among my race, because these are my people. But when you look, and in order to make it okay and to heal the racial injustice and to heal the oppression and to get rid of, all of the inequity that's there, you first have to admit that it's there. And that's the part that's hard. That's the part that's causing people to trigger. If you want to say, what are you doing? I'm speaking up. So, I made a very bold post, and I said, I'm probably going to lose a lot of money behind this, and I'm going to have some contracts pull out and some clients that say no. And I said, I will be vocal, and you may want to unfriend me, unfollow me, or withdraw your contracts without penalty. I went ahead and put the message out there because I am not going to be okay letting you think that the behavior is acceptable, because you can't stand up for what you don't admit is wrong. You can't. You've got to hold yourself accountable. When I was in an exchange with someone the other day, and I said, Black Lives Matter. And they said, that is so racist of you. That is so racist of you to say that Black Lives Matter and to use the term underprivileged is also racist. And I said, you help me understand how 400 years of proven humanity, proving your worth, releasing your power, being under oppression, working to build your wealth, and then working to build your own, only having it bombed in Tulsa and Rosewood, and then starting from zero with nothing in your hand and having your life disregarded over and over and over again based on the color of your race. Me saying the message Black Lives Matter is offensive to you because you don't want to do the work. You don't want to do the work. You don't want to admit that there is not always equality. Because if I said breast cancer awareness, you don't go and say, well, what about colon cancer? What about bone cancer? What about this? What about that? You go, yes, let's find a cure. This is a disease. It is a dis-ease, and it needs a cure. It is called racism. It is called systemic oppression. It is called injustice. It is called our history, and it needs a cure. And in order for everyone to rally around, and in order for others to advocate, you've got to do the work on the inside of you and figure out where you've given yourself a pass and where you've made it okay. Because if you're not willing to do that level of work, we're not going to see the healing. And if you don't feel the pain of the experience along with the Black community, then you have given yourself a pass to watch it like a movie and not to be an actor in a real live reality show right now. And I think that is so key, to check in with yourself and to say, am I holding myself accountable?
Mm-hmm.
Am I holding myself accountable? Am I really checking into what I really think? And it's okay if the thought process is warped. You were raised a certain way. You were taught a certain thing. Our textbooks do not prepare our children. My children go to school and then they come home and they have Black history. because they're going to learn one thing in school, but I have to teach them different lessons because those things are not depicted in our educational system. And so it's okay to realize there's a gap, but then you have to take the accountability and the responsibility to say, let me close the knowledge gap. Let me talk to Trina. Let me talk to Yolanda. Let me figure out, let me just say it. Even if I say it wrong, so that someone can correct me and I can have the blinders taken off, because I'm not going to know it's wrong if I'm filtering. You're never going to know, Louise. Say it from the purest place in your heart and find the safe community to have the candid conversation so that you can figure out where are there opportunities of growth and change.
Mm-hmm.
But it starts with everybody being honest about where they are.
Beautiful, beautifully said. I know we are doing that. That's the purpose of what we're doing here today, is to absolutely get this on the table, and speak our hearts. And the first thing is acceptance. The acceptance of the truth, acceptance that there's wrongs, acceptance that there's oppression here, like you said, and then I love to heal that generational trauma. That's what we do. We just did that at our boot camp all day on June 6th. I took a woman who's had 3 suicides in her life and, a lot of grief and bullied as a six-year-old. And, we cleared it. Her face completely changed and everybody on the call changed. So I love to do that. And I'm happy to be present for you to do some of that work with you if you want, Yolanda. But it's for all of us. It's like you said, we have to accept first and then do the self-work. It's about how do we heal this, wounds for ourselves and for the collective. We won't get there if we're not doing our self-work. Like Sinclair said, it's like really working on all those layers of that grief and what it brought up for you too, Sinclair, in your community, and how that I work with a great woman. She's in my office today, and she is a white woman, and her whole platform, she's a high-powered coach, is bridging the gap, is helping conversation between Black and white and understanding racism. And I give her so much complete credit. Because she's a white woman doing this work on a real high-powered activism level. And it's so beautiful to see. So, to see each person do their part. We can all take an action step and do the part, and whatever part feels right for each of us, right? I mean, I don't know, it's going to be different for every person, but it is about doing the work and showing up. And showing, and
but it's a start.
And in a moment-to-moment way, right?
Mm-hmm. It's going to be different. It's going to be different for all of us. I know that one of the questions we started to talk about right before we got on, and then we'll kind of wrap it up here, is, Yolanda, for you mentioned a little bit how parenting is different. You told some stories about, raising your kids. This is my hope and my prayer, and I would just really love your opinion on this. Do you feel like it's changing for the younger generation of Black Americans versus when you grew up? I mean, I would like to see your boys not have that oppression going forward, be able to heal this. I don't know the answer, but it feels like I'd like to see the change, though, so that generationally it's not being carried down for then their kids. You know what I mean?
Is it changing? In some ways, yes.
Okay.
In some ways, no. My children have different experiences because we've been blessed by the grace of God to afford them a different life. And so they are surrounded by different cultures. Now, in our community, they are the minority. Maybe 10 Blacks in the entire school, which that in itself is a challenge. That was a different challenge. And so they've created friendships that are different, where color really didn't play a factor into the friendship and into the love and to the relationship. So in that way, yes. But there is still the open wounds there where we still have to educate them, and we have to remind them that the rules are not the same. We have to remind them that when you are navigating in our culture, I mean, in the society that you are and in our community, you can't navigate the same. So in as much as I would like for their life to be different than the experiences I've had, the reality is I probably won't really see the fruition of it until my grandchildren. And I hope it can be that soon.
Okay.
I hope it can be that soon. But it's the work that we do now that determines whether or not my grandchildren or my great-grandchildren won't be sitting on a call having this conversation again.
Right.
But my children, they've already had their experiences. You know, I have vivid memories of having to snatch that innocence from them. I have the memories of them going outside and wanting to play, and all of the white kids running the house because one of the dads felt like my son wasn't safe to play with. And so their children were separated, and them saying, "What's wrong with me?" And I say, "Nothing is wrong with you. Today you woke up, and when you looked in the mirror, you realized that your skin is brown. And that sometimes means that people are going to be mean, but you are beautiful. And there's nothing wrong with you, and there's nothing broken on the inside of you. And so today is still going to be a great day. You're going to play with your brother, and it's going to be okay." You know, I've had the experiences of my son coming home and saying, "Mama, what does it mean when someone says to me, I'm more white than I am black?" And me having to explain, well, they're ignorant. And they think because you are articulate and because you've been afforded this or that, that this is what it means. So for them, some of that blueprint is already there, unfortunately.
Okay.
The experiences, they're already some tender spots for them, and they are well aware. But I hope that what we're experiencing now, I pray that it makes an impact for them in a different way. That when they say, "I want to go protest," they're saying, "I'm not going to hide behind who I am. I'm going to stand in the truth of who I am with pride and with dignity and with integrity." And they pass that on, no longer feeling less than, but feeling the equality of what we are fighting for in the Black community. So I think we're on the verge of a change, but we have so much work to still do.
We still have work to do. Oh my gosh, your boys are so lucky. What a great mom. I mean, oh my
gosh. Tell them that. They
I know. When they're teenagers, I need to call them up and tell them that, right? Like I can just feel the stance that you're, in the premise and the faith that you're raising your boys with, and helping them really see truth like we're talking about here, but also be present to what the change can be. And that's beautiful, because that is exactly where we need to go with all of this for our world, for each individual family, for each individual person, and for the collective right now. So I hope that this conversation definitely continues, across the board for our listeners, for whoever this is touching, for the people that you're all touching. Yolanda, I would love to, continue to, have this conversation with you and with Trina and with Sinclair on any level that we need to here in the future to continue the healing. To continue the healing. So if you were going to leave our audience with one thought, I guess what would it be? Anybody?
So I would say be present for this moment, because opportunities like this don't come along often. And so the healing is ready to happen. So let's be together and take care of yourself so that you can show up for it. And bless Black businesses. Don't wait for government reparations. Wrongs have happened from our previous generations, our ancestors, our parents, grandparents, great-grandparents. You can help by blessing Black businesses.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you, Sinclair. Thank you. Wow. I love your stance. I love your presence. I love your wisdom. God. And Trina or Yolanda, one last tip or thought here for our audience.
I would say, you know, Sinclair mentioned it earlier. It's about moment to moment. But be aware of the space that you actually be and the presence that you actually bring into every moment.
Mm.
Because when you can show up, like what we talked about, in that place where you're not judging, it can make such a difference in someone else's life.
Mm.
So be present in every moment and look at who you be and what action you're actually taking.
Beautiful. Thank you for that, Trina. Wow, wisdom. I love all your wisdom. I learned so much from all of you. I just want to thank you. And Yolanda, what's one last thought that you'd like to share with all of us here in our audience?
I will say one is make the life count. You know, when I study my faith, there was always a sacrifice for great change and for redemption. And you always don't get to choose that sacrifice. And I could give you 100 names because I keep them before me as a reminder of the journey. But don't let this opportunity, as Sinclair has said, pass by. You know, George Floyd created a wave of momentum,
Mm-hmm.
and you truly have a choice to make his life count so that the death is not the story.
Mm-hmm.
And the other part would be do it scared. Whenever there is change, there is fear.
Mm-hmm.
There is something that rises up that will want to paralyze you in what's common and comfortable, but do it scared. Move forward even when you're unsure. Make the apologies even when you're not sure how they'll be received. Speak up in the group when you were the one who used to agree. And when you do it the first time, it is going to feel scary. But soon fear turns to a fierce faith and a strong foundation to stand on. And you will move from the place of being scared to the place of advocacy and to being a really strong alliance for change.
Mm. Thank you. Beautiful. I don't know why I'm getting this, but I feel like I need to go there. You tell me if you guys want to do this now for our group here as everyone's listening. I'm feeling called to go to prayer for George Floyd, for his family, and for the healing that that we all hold intention for. Are you guys good with that? Can we do that for a minute? Okay. Okay. Dear God, thank you for the opportunity to be together today with these amazing women, with Sinclair, with Trina, and with Yolanda. Thank you all for your wisdom and your words and sharing your hearts. We're coming together, on the heels of a just horrific, murder and death of George Floyd and all that he meant. And of course, the other Black people too that we've talked about here that also have, been brutally murdered. This has brought, a lot forth for our country. And we ask God that you heal these wounds, that we're praying for George Floyd, for his family, and for all of the people that he has touched, and for our great nation, and for a healing of these wounds of oppression, injustice, and racism. We ask that you give these amazing women in this room and all the people that they touch your blessing, your gift, your wisdom, and a deeper healing and connection with you. And we ask that you bring that again to our great nation, to all of our people, to the Black community, to all of us for a deeper healing going forth. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Okay. Thank you for that. And thank you all for being here. I love you all. And we wish you, an awesome day. you know, and if this brings a conversation for all of you and you want to have a conversation with any of these women, are you guys open for that? Because I'll post your information at the bottom of the podcast here. And, you know, or myself, please do reach out. You know, we're here for you. You know, it is about your healing and your gift in the world and what you can bring to yourself, to your family, and to others. Again, thank you for being here, and have a great day, everyone.